I am at Walmart and it is almost Christmas, like about a month out from Christmas. So it is time for my yearly what art supply gifts to give. If you want to give the gift of art supplies mini gift guide. And I am not going to be buying anything this year because I feel like I've bought all the stuff that was worth buying. This is probably not at $23. That is not worth your money. I know, and people act like that's the big selling point. Oh, that's kind of neat. They've got the Happy Planner kits. Oh, they do. Oh, I'm not into Nightmare Before Christmas, but that's kind of cute. But all they seem to have are the Nightmare Before Christmas ones. That's still kind of cute. These things are usually really pretty pricey. Yeah, more Nightmare Before Christmas. It's kind of weird that they have that at Walmart because that's usually like a Michael's thing. So let's venture into the craft section. So they've got the Grumbacher watercolor pads. I've played around with a sample of it and I liked it decently well. It's got this like weird kind of surface sizing on it, but it's not too bad. I have not played with their mixed media pad too much, but that seems decent as well. It has more of a texture to it, so not so great for alcohol markers unless you want to drain your alcohol marker. These B sketchbooks, I mean, look at that. That is 200 sheets right here. That's a lot of sketching all in one place. And the price point isn't too bad. The watercolor pad, I think you'd probably be better served with the Grumbacher than with the B. And the mixed media is thinner mixed media paper. That might work a little bit better with alcohol markers than the Grumbacher. So up here we have a lot of king art actually, and this is usually something I see on Zulily, but these are going to be kind of like the Faber-Castell gelatos, so they're kind of like a watercolor crayon. I find they don't really work. The crayon part of it works, not really the water activation part of it. You can't really go wrong with gray tones for alcohol markers. That said, you can find comparable-ish alcohol markers at Five Below for a little bit less, so that might be a good way to go. The watercolor markers are just going to be inexpensive water-based markers, so you could basically get away with using Crayola Supertip markers for the same thing. Prismacolor markers, Prismacolor pencils. So for years, they were considered to be kind of like really nice, and they still are kind of banking on that cachet. Unfortunately, the quality has gone down significantly over the years and they're pretty prone to breaking. But if Walmart is where you are doing your art supply shopping for whatever reason, they are probably going to be pretty good. Although honestly, if they're selling the Crayola Signature at your Walmart, I would say go with the Crayola Signature. Now Walmart has started selling some, at least my Walmart has started selling some Faber-Castell. I happen to like Faber-Castell as a brand. The Creative Studio is their student grade brand, so it's a little more economical, but a good sketch set, most young artists are going to need a good sketch set to get started with. So not a bad way to go, and will probably perform better than the cheaper Simply sketch sets here. Now people, these are such a common gift. These are not useful. They don't hold a pose. They're difficult to pose. Skip this. I know people think artists when they see things like that, but it's not so great. The pencil sharpener is also pretty terrible, and I'll show you guys a better eraser to go with in a minute. They've actually got a good stock going on today. Lots of canvases. That's why I like this Walmart. Their art supply section, while small, is well stocked and they have a lot of stuff. It's also right by the school supply section, so it's easy to kind of show both. So I have reviewed the Daler Rowney Aquarelle watercolors before. They're terrible. Don't waste your money with those. Same goes for the watercolor pan set. What I'm not seeing is they had a folding watercolor palette that I reviewed not too long ago that I actually liked and could recommend, but I'm not seeing it today. Now, me personally, I'm not a hardcover sketchbook person. I find them personally kind of intimidating to use, so I never keep up with them. It's like the art inside has to be perfect. So I like the cheaper spiral bound ones instead. And then moving over here, their acrylics have gotten increasingly cheap over the years. I don't actually have any experience with these in particular, so I can't really talk about them. If you are giving the gift of watercolor this year, honestly, I'm not really a fan of their watercolor brushes. Those of you who are familiar with watercolor can probably see why. So what I would recommend instead is probably, if you're on a budget and Walmart is where you're going to do your shopping, probably their all media brushes. Now, as for their art kits, I actually have this one here that I need to review for you guys this year, so keep an eye out for that. While Apple Barrel is kind of the butt of many jokes, it comes in a bunch of colors and it is very inexpensive and probably about the same quality as their tube watercolors, so you may be better served with the Apple Barrel rather than with their tube watercolors. And then Mod Podge can be great. It comes in different finishes, and it can be really helpful as a sealant, or to even just literally use it what it's for. Use it as a Mod Podge. So this is the other reason why I like this Walmart. The school supply section is right next to the arts and crafts. So if you're buying for somebody who likes to draw, I really like the Pentel Click Erase erasers, and I use these myself pretty frequently. I am a mechanical pencil kind of gal, and since I've given myself early onset arthritis, I tend to avoid the drafting pencils that look a lot like drafting pencils, and typically I try to go for something that has a more comfortable grip, like the Velocity, because I'd rather break the pencil than break my hand. And I would recommend Pentel's lead. If you're buying lead here, it is a good quality lead. It's not overly prone to snapping, and it's basically artist quality. If you're looking for some fun things, they also have some of these zebra sets. So this combines gel pens with some of their mild liners, and then they have smaller mild liner sets as well. Something I love, and I love to see it here, are the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pens. These are great for inking. They have a teeny tiny little brush. This is actually a combo pack. So you get the harder brush, which is a little bit stiffer and good for fine lines, and the softer brush, which is good for bouncier, juicier lines. And they've also got some fun stuff like the Calligraphy Duo and the Dual Brush. These are going to be water-based markers, so you could actually use those as watercolor markers if you want to, and you're going to be a little bit happier with these than the ones on the aisle behind us. As I mentioned, I generally these are ballpoint pens, but you may see mechanical pencils like this. I personally tend to avoid those at this point because they've basically kind of torn up my hand. Now, what I thought I was going to see, and I'm not seeing, are the Pentel high polymer white vinyl erasers. But if you do see those, I really recommend them. Oh, thank you. That's where they are. Thank you so much. It is. See? Pentel. Oh, I don't actually like the pencil caps as much. They're just a white version of like regular pencil caps, and they're not the softer white vinyl. These are great. They're good at removing graphite. They're good for erasing your sketches underneath your inks, and they're not going to smear on the paper, and they're also not going to tear up your paper. They are a big upgrade over the pink pearl erasers. Now, Crayola gets kind of maligned because it is sold for children, but a lot of their products are pretty high quality. This set, however, I'm not so sure about. Mostly because of these pans down here. That's typically a sign of cheap. Also, these kind of watercolor markers are very, very cheap to produce. So I don't know that I would recommend you spend $23 on this set here, because you can get a set of these at Five Below for under $5 and a set of similar paints at Five Below for the same price. So basically you're paying the big money for the case.
It just narrowed it down.
Yeah. So here are the Crayola supplies. I'm actually kind of surprised to see how small this section is. It used to be that Crayola was like one of the biggest sections. So of Crayola, their color pencils are really not that bad. They've gotten kind of a bad name, I think just because it's a kids brand, but their regular color pencils I find are pretty similar to Prismacolor at this point. They also have the skin tone set, which is nice. I do not recommend the erasable color pencils though. Those things are terrible and they'll tear up your paper. So I really like the Crayola Supertip markers. Not the crazy art markers, not the regular wide Crayola markers, specifically the Supertips. They can be used kind of like watercolor markers, and I've got a bunch of tutorials on the channel where I show how to do just that. So it's not quite close enough to Christmas for them to have all their arts and crafts kits out. This is kind of an interesting thing. It's a Prismacolor Technique 3-level class. And while I don't love Prismacolors, I love the idea of including a class with the supplies. Now, of course, I do lessons and tutorials here on the channel, but I can't always provide the supplies for you guys. So I do like that it's like a combination of the materials and how to use the materials. I think if you've got a young artist in your life, that could be a great gift. And then for some of these other ones, so crazy art used to be rose art. And any teacher will tell you if you can avoid rose art, you should avoid rose art. And I think that concludes my 2022 Walmart, what I would recommend and what I would skip when giving the gift of art supplies this year. Just when I thought I was done, Mom found 2 more kits. This probably looks so tempting, right? All those colors.
That's just one.
No, that's the other kit.
That was back there.
I didn't see the liquid chalk. Yeah. This one's actually kind of interesting to me.
It comes in a spray bottle. You have a spray bottle thing.
But Art Alternatives is a Michaels brand, and it's one of their store brands, and it just typically does not work very well. So this looks like a very, very appealing case. The black kind of gives the impression of like a fine artist. You can see all the colorful goodies inside, but it's probably going to be pretty disappointing. Now, what I actually think is interesting is the Crayola spray thing. That
spray chalk.
Yeah, that looks neat, because anybody who's done chalk art knows if you use it the traditional way, chalk on the sidewalk, you're going to waste a lot of chalk. It's just going to turn to chalk dust. So you basically want to kind of grind it up into a powder and turn it into a paint and then paint it on, and then that takes forever to remove. So this is already moving in that direction.
Okay, that's what that is right there, except turn back.
Yeah. Those are kind of neat. And it's weird that they're like by the craft flowers and the piñatas and not...
They had them over there in the back.
They had this set too?
No, not that, but they had this.
They're hiding the art supplies from me.